I call this meeting of the Northeast Independent School District to order. Let the record show that a quorum of board members is present, that this meeting has been duly called, and that notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551, and the time is 5:31. Thank everybody for being here on this Juneteenth. Item 2, public hearing to discuss 2025-2026 budget and proposed tax rate. A, possible action regarding 2025-2026 budget adoption. Mr. Villarreal.
Yes, Mr. President, members of the board, Dr. Mike, executive staff, and guests, I call on Susie Lackhorn to deliver this agenda item.
Good evening. After several meetings, tonight we're here to discuss our budget and proposed tax rate for 25-26. As our budget adoption rules state, we must have the budget prepared by June 19th and adopted in a public hearing by June 30th. Obviously, today's the 19th, so the budget has been prepared, and tonight is our public hearing. You're familiar with the three funds that we are adopting. We also have to publish in the newspaper a notice about this hearing, and that was published on June 7th. That notice was just, FYI, was published with numbers with old law, as those were required before the governor signed House Bill 2. So just FYI, there is a difference between what was published in the paper and what you are adopting today, which is perfectly normal. We just have to explain it. We may not adopt the tax rates before we adopt the budget. Tax rates will be approved in September. As we have mentioned before, TEA sends us our maximum compressed rate for our M&O property tax rate, and so we will not receive those until after certified values are submitted to the state and reviewed by TEA. So we'll likely be doing that process in September. Our proposed tax rate, just remember, since House Bill 3 in 2019, they compress it and they will assign us the rate very, very late July, sometimes middle of August, sometimes later in August, and when we get it, then we will be able to adopt that tax rate. Here's how property taxes were displayed when we published it in the paper on June 7th. Our values are pretty similar to last year. And so the change to homeowners were minimal, $21 change between one year to the next. This may change if the state lowers that compressed rate, and once we know what our final certified property values will be. So again, there's a chance this rate can go down and save our taxpayers a little bit of money. We also have legislation that has passed for property homestead exemptions. We will not know for certain until a constitutional amendment is voted on in November, whether or not that really will take effect. In the past, those have all successfully passed. So that will also save our homeowners money if that passes. Okay. So now that we've talked about tax rates, talking about the actual budgets. For general fund, as we've talked about the changes with House Bill 2 and the new laws impacting us, we're have a total estimated revenue of $584 million. Our distribution will change a little bit with those changes from House Bill 2. So we're looking at about 61% of our revenue coming from property taxes and 29% coming from the state. On our expenditure side, TEA requires that we adopt this by function code. So when we look at our instruction and instructional related functions, that's $400 million of our total budget, or 66%. And then instruction and school leadership, another $45 million. Student support services of $62 million. Administrative support, $15 million, or 2.4%. Our non-student support, about $80 million. And then all of our other functions, another $5 million. Our other uses of about 2.4, totaling $625 million expenditures. For school nutrition, our revenue budget of $40 million. We talked about meal prices. We did get some good news this week. Our reduced breakfast price is able to drop down to 0. The state's going to pick that up. That was something that came out this week. And so we had talked about these menu prices earlier in the year. And here are the appropriations, the expenditures for school nutrition. Again, balancing that budget at $40 million. Debt service, total revenue of $400 million and appropriations of $400 million. And as a reminder, making sure, this is just to make sure that we will have enough money in our fund balance to pay that August 1st, 2020, I can't believe it's already going to be 2026 debt service payment, and the set-asides that we need for our Q-SCAB bonds and any requirements that we have for paying off principal. So as you can see, we'd have plenty of funds left over. We went through all those numbers pretty in-depth over the last few meetings, and we want to take this opportunity to thank a lot of people who do a lot of work. It takes just about every corner of the district to be able to get all the numbers put together. And so here's a list of most of the people and the players who help participate in building the budget. And we have a handful of them here tonight, if they could stand up and be recognized real quick. They all want to. All right, does anyone have any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Lackhorn and Mr. Villarreal and the team for doing this the last couple of months for us. I know you've been working diligently, and especially with the legislative session, it makes things interesting for you. So with that, I know we've all seen a lot of the detail on this and had some discussion, but does anybody have any additional questions or comments for this presentation?
So the only question I have is, go back to, they passed all breakfast is free? I missed that.
They're reduced. So reduced breakfast, there was I think we were anticipating 30 cents per breakfast, and now the state's going to chip in on that, and so we won't have to charge for that.
Okay, that's great. At all schools, all levels.
Yes. Ms. Glossman.
That's great.
Yes.
No other questions. Do I have a motion to adopt the 2025-2026 budgets for the general fund, debt service fund, and school nutrition services fund?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Villarreal. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Landry. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you all again for all your hard work. Item 3, new business for possible board action. A, instruction and campus administration. 1, possible action regarding school district teaching permit. Mr. Jimenez.
Thank you, President Byer, members of the board, Dr. Micah, executive staff, and guests. Shiloh Wooden will address this agenda item.
Hi, good evening. We are coming to you this evening to request approval to issue a school district teaching permit to a high school assistant athletic trainer who would be assigned to teach sports medicine. The state does allow for this, and we've come previously to the board. The last time that we came as an action item was June of last year. It does allow for an individual who does not hold a standard teaching certificate but does hold the license to serve as an athletic trainer to come to you to seek that approval. And so that is what we are presenting to you this evening. The individual does hold all the required qualifications to be issued this permit, so I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
How many have we approved over the last few years?
We currently have 7 employed with us today, yes, and there are 2 athletic trainers at each high school.
Okay. And is there a mechanism, I saw this again, is there a mechanism to have more of a blanket, not approval for this, but that we don't have to go through this every year?
Unfortunately, the permits are issued to individuals, and current code does require that we come to the board, and then
Okay.
it's submitted to the commissioner.
Okay. Thanks. Ms. Cox, you had a question?
I was just wondering, is there, for the applicants, is there like a general area they all come from before? Like where did they come, what space were they in before? Where were they working before?
Some of them come from the university level. We've seen that as a common background from individuals. Some do come from other school districts where they weren't teaching, so it wasn't a requirement. So they may have served in a public education setting, but again, they weren't serving as a teacher, so they didn't have to have a standard cert. But in our district, they do teach sports medicine, one or
Okay.
more courses.
All right, thank you.
hmm
How long do these permits last, or is there an expiration date?
They're not. They're entitled to be on that as long as they're employed with us, but it's only for this assignment. So if we discover later that we have a need that goes beyond the current assignment, then we would explore getting them certified in an appropriate area. But the only certification that's required is any secondary cert to teach the sports medicine class, which they don't presently hold. So,
And are they working, I think in the past, the individuals were working towards certification?
We do have some that do, but in order to go through a program like an alt cert program or an alternative certification program, you have to have where you're teaching at least 5 classes in the course, which they would typically be seeking health certification, which wouldn't and sometimes allow them to teach health plus the sports medicine. So that's why we come to you with this as the permit option. But some, if they're teaching less and can do that, where they can still pick up 5 classes of health, then they may be able to pursue certification through an alternative certification program.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All right. If not, do I have a motion to approve the school district teaching permit as presented?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Landry. Do I have a second?
Second?
Thank you, Ms. Shelton. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you, Ms. Switten.
Thank you.
Item B, Business Services. 1, possible action regarding final budget amendment. Mr. Villarreal.
Yes, Mr. President, we bring to you tonight a request to approve the final budget amendment for 24-25.
All right, that was all provided to us in our packets. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Villarreal? All right, seeing none, do I have a motion to approve the final budget amendment as provided to us?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Villarreal. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Chigi. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion passes 7-0. Item 2, possible action regarding fund balance commitments. Mr. Villarreal.
Yes, Mr. President, tonight we bring you approval, a hope for approval for our fund balance commitments for our campus activity funds.
All right, this item was provided to us as well. Any questions?
I had
Ms.
one
Cox?
question, yeah,
Yeah.
about the campus activity funds. I don't really understand that. So does that mean if the school receives donations or there's a fundraiser, then that money stays there?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Ms. Villarreal, did you have a question? No? Okay. All right, no other questions. Do I have a motion to approve the resolution committing certain fund balances as of June 30th, 2025?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Thompson. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Ms. Shelton. Thank you, Ms. Shelton. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion passes 7-0. Item C, consent. 1, business services. A, bid items. Do I have a trustee who has a question about that particular item? All right, seeing none, do I have a motion to approve consent as provided to us?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Chigi. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Villarreal. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion passes 7-0. Item 4, executive session. The board will now adjourn into executive session pursuant to the following sections of the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code Section 551.072, discussing purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property, and Section 551.074, to discuss personnel or to hear complaints against personnel, and the time is 5:45. The board will now convene an open session, and the time is 6:50 PM. Item 6, matters from executive session. A, personnel including but not limited to administrative appointments pursuant to Government Code Section 551.074. 1, possible action regarding routine personnel including but not limited to administrative appointments. Do I have a motion to approve items A through F on the agenda as discussed?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Villarreal. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Thompson. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion passes 6-0. Item B, purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property pursuant to Government Code Section 551.072. 1, possible action regarding lease agreement with Morgan's. No action. And item 7, adjournment, and the time is 6:51 PM.